friends, I hope you all are well. So in our previous video we have seen how we connected our Spring Boot application with MongoDB Atlas, with MongoDB Cloud version, and we have created one API which is add student, and this is first API of the CRUD application, which is create. Okay, so today we are going to build the rest of all the APIs, which is uh, for read operation. We will create get API for update, and for delete we will create a post API, right? So before proceeding to our next API, let me tell you one thing. There is a problem in this API. Let me show you. When let me show you the database. How many data we have? We have currently six data, right? We have currently six data. So let's suppose if my ID is 6, and 6 ID 6 is already present, and when I hit this with different name, let's suppose uh, NANDAN, and when I hit send, so before hitting send, the name is ABCD, right? And when I hit send, yes, let me refresh it. Yes, so this is updated. The same API is working for inserting students, and the same API is working for the updation of the student, but this is not the correct way, right? Let's suppose if I make this ID 7, so and when I hit send, so data is inserted successfully, and seventh row is inserted. So this is working fine. So what we are going to do, we are going to enhance this in our next video, not in this video. Okay, so it'll make this only to add students, not to update students. Okay, for updating students we will create a new, and we will create another API, right? So yeah, so without getting delay, let's get started for the next API. Okay, which is get API. So let me just copy and paste the first one which I have created. Yeah, so let me change this get, let me make this get student. Okay, and let me change it, get all students. Okay, and here in the request body we do not need to pass anything, because if we want all the students, so we do not need to pass anything. Let's suppose if you find a student whose age is 6, then we have to filter out. If let's say if we do not have any kind of filter, so we do not need to pass anything in the request body. So our request body will be empty, and here in the student service we will create a method get all students, and this is okay. When there is a catch, so this will return something went wrong even there is an exception. So let me create a method inside our student service class, sorry, service interface, and we have created the method here, and let me save it first. Yeah, and in student service IMPL we have to implement the method we have just created in the student service class. Okay, so here we have created the method. So in this, let me create first try and catch. Okay, inside the try and catch we will create all our logic. So let me return when there is any exception arise. Okay, and let me return this, and there is an exception, so it will return something went wrong or internal server error. and inside the catch block we will print out the exception, and inside our try block we'll do the logic. And let's say if we want to find out all the students, so we have a repository, student repository, right? So let's see what methods we have already present related to find. So we have find all, and find all returns the list of students. Okay, so this is what we want, right? So we are going to return it out, and I am going to assign it into a variable. So this is returning a list of student, so I am going to assign it into a list of student. Okay, student list. Okay, and let me, okay, this is returning the list of student, and we have to pass the list of student in the response. So right now we are passing the list of entity as a string, but we need to pass the list of students, not a single string. So for this we need to go to the student controller, and we have to make this replace this string with list of students. Okay, and this list of students also we have to replace it here. And if let's say something went wrong, then we will pass either null or let's say we pass a new list, new array list. Okay, so we have to make it a student. And here also, if we pass, if we are returning the list of students as a response, so in the service interface we also have to return the list of student interface, list of student response. So if we pass in the interface, so we have to also pass it here. So here I have already passed, no, not here, here. So here we have to change it, and in the place of something went wrong, let me create a new array list, and in place of e just make it empty, because by default it will consider that it is a list of student. So, and let's suppose if the response is successful, this is for the response, if anything, any exception came. But let's say if it is successful, if we get all the list of students, so if, so we will pass out, yeah, so we changed, yeah, so this is the student list, we passed it here, and we are sending the response code. Okay, so let me run this application. Let me start this application in, so our application is started, I think. No, it is failed. So our port is already I mean 8080 is already in use. So let me stop the application first, and let me start it again. So server is started, application is started, you can see. And let me make this API. Okay, so we have this API localhost colon 8080. We have, let me check the API. We have API first, and then we have get students. So we have API first, and we have get students. So and we do not need to pass anything in the body, because we are not accepting anything in the body. If you pass anything in the body, it will not consider. Okay, so let me hit the send. Yeah, we are getting every response, we are getting every object of students. We total we have 7 objects, as you can see here, right? So we are getting all 7 list inside our API. So this is working fine, right? And let's suppose you pass anything in the body, because we have not provided anything in the body. So let's say if I pass name, okay, we hit send. So still we are getting 200, because it is not considering the body, it is not taking the body, right? So as of now we are not going to pass anything. So yeah, so our second API is completed, our read API is completed. Now we are going to make a delete API to delete a student object. So let's say let me make this. Yeah, so for this we are going to make delete mapping, and inside our parameter will pass delete student with id. So we'll taking id in our URL parameter, and on the basis of that id we are going to delete the student object. Okay, so yeah, for this let me copy paste this method. We'll rename this method. Okay, so this will be delete student. Yes, this will be, this is also going to be delete student, and we are not returning the list of student, we are only going to return the string, the message. Okay, so inside the, let's say if there is a catch, there is an exception arise, then we are going to pass here something went wrong. Make sense? Okay, so yeah, so inside the parameter we are going to take the id inside our URL parameter, right? So for this we are going to need other path variable. Okay, so in the URL path we are going to need a variable id, so that is a path variable, and this id we are taking as a integer, right? So make sure this id and this id naming convention should be same, otherwise it will return an error. Okay, so this path variable we have to pass it here in the API method body, not here. We only need to pass the id inside our method. So this method is not present inside our student service interface, so let's make the method from here. Create a method inside our student interface. We have created a method. If a method is created inside this interface, so its implementation class is this, and we are going to implement the unimplement method, right? Let me copy and paste this. Great. So first before deleting anything, before deleting the student objects inside the repository, we are going to need to find the student which is available inside the repository or not. If it is available, then only we are going to delete. If it is not, then we are going to pass a message that data is not found, or student object with this id is not found. So let's say if you pass id 10, but inside our repository we only have 7 object, right, with id 7. So let's say if you pass id 10 and this id is not present inside the database, so we are going to return a message to the user that you are putting the wrong id, right? So for this we have to find the a student with a particular id. So I think we have a method in student repository which is find by id, I think find by id, right? and in this we are going to pass the id. So this is returning what? This is returning an optional. This is returning an optional of student, right? So let me make this, assign this into a variable. Yes, this is returning an optional. Okay, so student by id. Why this is returning an optional? Because let's say if you are finding it by id, it could be possible that it is not present inside the database, so this might return a null pointer exception. So for that, they make find by id is the optional, so it handles the null pointer automatically, right? So here we will write a condition. First of all, let me change this to the string. Let me change this to the string, and here we will pass something went wrong, right? And let's say if we find the student, then only we are going to delete, right? So let's say if student by id dot is present, so if it is present, then only we are going to delete. If it is not, then we are only going to return a message that student with id and id not found, right? And we are going to send the http status okay. And here only if it is present, then student with id, this is deleted successfully, and before that we are going to delete. So I think we have a method inside our student repository dot delete by id, and we are going to pass it here. So yeah, that's all. I think this should work. Let me run this application. Okay, so this is started. So let me where is our API? Yeah, this is our API. Let me first pass the 10 because 10 is not present inside our database. Okay, so let's check what response we are going to get. Yeah, student with id 10 not found, right? So this is working perfect. So let's say if I pass 7 and if I hit send, because 7 is present, as you can see 7 is present inside our database, and when I hit send, so that student with id 7 is deleted successfully. If I refresh our database, yeah, you can see the element, the student with id 7 is deleted successfully. So delete API is working as expected, I think. So yeah, that's it. We have created 3 APIs so far, right? So we have created a add student, we have created a get student, we have created delete student. Okay, so now we are going to left only with the update student. So for that, let me first format this code. Okay, so for that we are going to create a new API for update student, and this will be post mapping, and here we will use update student, and here also update student. And this time we are not going to pass this time we are not going to pass this. We need the request body, because we don't know what user wants to update. Let's say user wants to update this name, let's say user want to update this address, this contact number, right, this email ID, or whatever the user wants to update, any of these things. So we need to pass we need to accept this request. So for this we are going to we are going to need it, this request body. Let me change this update student, and inside the update student we are going to pass the request map. Yeah, and for the exception we are getting something went wrong. Yeah, so this controller looks good. Let me make the method inside our interface and inside our implementation class. Great. So let me copy and paste this. So as I told you, like when ID is same, we have seen at the starting of the video, when we pass the same ID, then we are not inserting any object, we are only updating the object. Let's say if I pass 6 here, and as you can see, for the 6th, let me find it first. Yeah, for the 6th we have name Nandan and address UK. Okay, so I think this data, let me change it here, ABC 1 2 3, and yeah, remaining will be same. And when I hit the send button, so what, okay, so this is our application is stopped right now. So what we have seen at the starting of the video, what this API is doing, this API is updating the student. So like this we are going to make our update API. Okay, first we need to find the student with the particular ID. So let's say if okay, first let's say student repository dot find by ID, and here request map dot ID, because dot get ID. Okay, so we are getting the ID in the request map, and this is accepting integer, right? This find by ID is accepting integer, so we are going to convert this string into a integer dot parse int, and then yeah, so this is going to return an optional as we have seen. Okay, in the delete API, student by ID. Okay, so let's say, let me delete this. Okay, wait, let me not delete this yet. Okay, so here we are only going to find the student whose ID is present inside our repository or not, right? So there is one catch here, right? Let's first make try and catch. Okay, and we are going to pass here something went wrong, and this optional will be inside of this try block. We are going to print the exception. Okay, so let's say you pass the ID, and on the basis of ID it will find inside the repository that is student will present or not, right? But there is a problem. And what is the problem? Let's say if you pass the request map, and inside the request map there is no ID, then we are going to get an exception. So for this we are going to check an extra check. We are going to need an extra check, which is request map is not equals to null, right? And request map dot get ID is not equals to null, right? So this request map dot get ID should not equals to null. Okay, that is fine. So this should not be equal to null, then only we are going to find out, then only we are going to find this by ID. Okay, let me open and close this bracket, and let's say if this condition not matched, then we are going to return, yeah, bad request. and here we will say please send id, or here bad request. Okay, so yeah, and let's suppose if they pass an id, and if they pass an id, so there will be a two condition: either it will present inside our database or it will not present inside our database. So we are going to need this if condition. So if student by id is present, right? If it is present, then we are going to do the operation. If it is not, then we are going to return a message. Let me copy and paste with delete API. Yeah, this one looks good. Okay, so student with id, and let me get this id. Okay, string id, and here I will pass id directly. Okay, so student with id, this will is not found, and let's say if it is found, so then we are going to okay, yeah, let me delete this. Yeah, so let's understand this method again. So let's say if request is not null, and if request.getId is not null, then only we are going to find inside our repository. Otherwise it will create an exception if you don't pass any id inside our request body, right? So we are getting a check, and on the basis of that we are finding the student, okay, inside our student repository. And let's say there is a two condition: if a student by id is present and student by id is not present, right? So inside our else condition, we just notify the user that student with id this is not found. And let's say if it is present, then we are going to create a new student object inside our student object. No, wait, we are not going to create a new student, right? We are going to get that particular student which we have found. Okay, so what is the particular student? We are we can get this student by id dot get method. So if we call this get method, we are actually getting this student object, whatever inside our this brackets we are going to get. So we are going to get the student, yeah, students. And this, let me make this without s. Okay, so this student we are going to get, and we are setting the id. We are not going to set, right? Because id is something like a primary key, so we are not going to update that id. We can update the address, we can update the contact number, we can update the email, we can update the name, right? And we are going to we need an extra check for these fields. Let me tell you why. Let me first run this application, then you will understand why we need an extra check for that. Meanwhile, let me make an API. Let me copy and paste, make it update, make it post, and make it update student, and inside the body we need these data. Okay, so let's say I need to update a student with id 6, and I only want to update this name, right? I only want to update the name abc2 xyz. Okay, so yeah, let me hit send and we'll see what is. Yeah, so this okay, API not found. Let me check. the API update student, okay, we need, I think we need this extra slash. Yeah, something went wrong. You know why something went wrong? Because it is going inside this catch block. It is going inside this catch block and it is returning something went wrong, this line. Okay, so why it is happening? Because you are only passing the name and ID. On the basis of ID, it finds the students. Okay, it gets the students on the base of the ID. But when you are going to set the address, so it is not going to get the address. So for this it is getting, you know, exception, and inside when we got an exception, we will get something went wrong. Let me debug this application so you will get a better understanding of this. Okay, service MPL, let me make this, yeah, okay. So our debugger comes here. Let me check the request. Our request has only two things, name and ID. Okay, so if request is not null, yes it is not null, and request.getID is not null, yes it is not null. It's going inside. We are going to get the ID. Yes, ID is 6, and yeah, we are able to find the student. Yes, see, we have a student object here, and if a student object is present, so it will go inside the if block, and we are going to get the students. Let me see, address is null, contact number is null, ID and XYZ. Okay, so when we set the address and when we save the student, okay, there is something wrong here. Let me run this again. This is internal server error. Okay, it is returning this line. Let me put a debugger in this catch block. Okay, okay, as you can see, the data is updated. Yeah, we'll check that out later, why it is not going inside the catch block. Yeah, let's see. If you pass name and ID, on the basis of ID it finds the student, but on the basis of name, it updates the name only. You can see here, let me show you, it updates the name only, this line only, and the rest of the things are null. So what it did, it updates the existing data. Okay, let's suppose if you want to update the only name and rest of the things you don't want to update, but if you don't provide an extra check, it is also going to update the address, contact number and email and other fields, right? So for this we are going to need this check. So let's say if again this thing, if request.get address is not equals to null, then only we are going to update the address. Same thing, if request.get contact number is not null, then we are going to update the contact number, and same for email. And same for the name. Right, let me stop and save this and run the application. Okay, so this time we are going to pass ID 5. Okay, so let me check. Our ID 5 is ABCD, and all the fields are there, UKA999 and test@test.com. so let me change the name only, right? So if I hit the send button, okay, it is getting something went wrong. We'll check this out later. And when we refresh this, yes, only name is updated, rest fields are remaining same. Let's say if you want to update contact number, and this will be 111, and if I hit the send button, we are going to update 111 and rest of the fields are the same. So yeah, let me check what is going wrong with this. Let me check, do we have an update method? No, we only have the save student. Okay, okay, what we did wrong here, we just missed the return statement. If this, see, this else block is returning, okay, this if block is not returning anything, so we have to return after our successful operation. So let me return. Okay, so student with ID, this is updated successfully, right? Is updated successfully, right? And now we are going to get the successful response. Okay, let me change the address here, and address is something like this. Let me hit the send button. Yes, student with ID5 is updated successfully. So, and let me refresh this, you see the address is updated. So we have a working updated API as well. Okay, so as of now we have completed that create students, update student, delete student, and read student. So our CRUD application is completed here. And yeah, that's it for this video. And in the next video we are going to enhance some APIs, like this add student is also working as a update student. So we are going to make this correct, and also we are going to make some get API that reads the particular student. Let's suppose if you want a student with ID 5, or if you want a student with a particular email address. Okay, so we'll make this API. Okay, so for this I'm going to close the session. Yeah, thank you so much for the watching, and please do like and subscribe and comment on this video. Thank you so much.